Listen, I get it. This is one of those pretentious video essays about video games for people who just want to hear about good level design. So I can picture it already. I'm on your second monitor while you're solo queuing for another Deadlock game. And oh look, your microwave leftovers got cold since you took too long to pick a video to watch. But you picked this one, so I know you're my target audience here. Now, good level design can look like a lot of different things, of course, but the levels that video essay nerds really love are the kind that force you to take them seriously. You know, whether that's Dark Souls' brutal runs that make even the sweatiest gamers stop and think, or Zelda dungeons whose puzzle box designs force you to shuffle entire temples like they're Rubik's Cubes, or maybe Metroidvanias with power-ups you have to backtrack across the entire map to find uses for. I think for experienced nerds who have mindlessly blasted through simpler levels all their life, these exceptional spaces stand out by forcing players to really pay attention and take every inch seriously. And if you're the type of nerd who loves that, and obviously the type of nerd who loves it enough to watch video essays about it, then I promise you will love this game. I meant what I said in the title. This 10-year-old Quake mod is the best example of brilliant, Souls-like level design I've ever seen in an FPS. And a recent development from the Quake community has made playing this mod better and more accessible than ever before. I'm Jay the Dev Guy, and let me tell you about my favorite first-person shooter, Arcane Dimensions. But first, a huge thanks to Brilliant for sponsoring this video. If you're watching my video essay, then I know you love learning, and may even want to learn game development yourself. Brilliant has thousands of lessons in relevant skills like math, programming, and logic you can learn comfortably on your desktop or smartphone. The interactive, palatable lessons are an effective way to transform your smartphone time from rotting your brain to actually using it. I personally recommend the Thinking in Code course to anyone trying to learn programming in their spare time. To learn for free on Brilliant, go to brilliant.org/jthedevguy or click the link in the description for 20% off an annual premium subscription, which gives you unlimited daily access to everything on Brilliant. And thanks again to Brilliant for sponsoring this video. Arcane Dimensions is a fan-made, single-player mod for Quake. It's actually one of the most popular mods, and obviously Quake is one of the most iconic first-person shooters of all time. So I'm hesitant to feel too hipster recommending any of this, but there's barely any popular videos about Arcane Dimensions on YouTube, and almost none of them were released within the last several years. And Quake is historic, but it came out in 1996. That makes it as old as I am. So I doubt most of my audience has actually played it. And that's fine. I want to stress that you don't need to play the original Quake to enjoy this mod, and honestly I recommend you play Arcane Dimensions first. You don't even need to know anything about Quake to get into it, but more on that later. So since I'm really trying to sell to the video essay nerds, I get that branding this as a Souls-like Quake mod is very 2011. And to the skeptics I just want to say, listen, you've already started your microwave noodles, and I know as well as you do you're not going to pick a new video halfway through eating, so just give me a minute to defend myself here. I'm going to prove that Arcane Dimensions is a masterclass in that thoughtful level design nerds love. Let me walk you through one of my favorite levels, Necromancer's Keep. You start in your grave, which is absolutely adorable, and I love the edgy, teenage grunge of these 90s games. But it is an elegant way to both teach the player how to jump and set the tone for the level. You're already armed with the basic shotgun, and as soon as you climb out, you enter the graveyard, see the Necromancer's Keep, and start blasting the first wave of enemies. It's taught you everything you need to know to get into the good stuff without any formal tutorial. And it's not done teaching you yet. You're presented with the first weapon you can pick up, which shows you can pick up new weapons, and that picking up items can trigger new enemies to spawn an attack. Inside the keep, you fight some new enemies and get presented with a choice. The hallway goes left or right, so we'll go right and... yeah, immediately some arrow traps shoot you from the ceiling, which brings me to my first cornerstone of Arcane Dimensions' level design. Traps. Traps are a level design staple in games like Dark Souls. They create some of the most memorable moments in a notoriously mischievous game. But their utility as a level design tool is far more sophisticated than just those clippable slapstick moments. Because when a trap catches you after walking into a room, or blindly turning a corner, or opening a chest, you never do any of those things again without being just a little bit anxious. That anxiety turns every room, every corner, and every chest into a suspenseful experience you have to actually pay attention to now. And you take the entire level more seriously as a result. This arrow trap in Arcane Dimensions barely hurts you, and it's super easy to avoid afterwards, but it warns you that this is a place trying to trick you. In fact, it's exactly like the first arrow trap in Sense Fortress from Dark Souls, which all my fellow video essayists love, and for good reason. But this room has even more Souls-like level design hiding in plain sight. If you pay close attention, you can see a barred-off room full of powerful enemies. The distinct red window and new enemy types really imprint this scene into your head if you notice it, and it's a perfect example of vantage points, another cornerstone of Arcane Dimensions' level design. Vantage points allow the player to observe the level, foreshadowing future challenges. This makes players take the level seriously, whether it's planning a route through an upcoming encounter, showcasing how far down failure could drop them, or teasing a big fight that could be around any corner. A vantage point can wordlessly communicate so much to the player through level design alone. And like Dark Souls, Arcane Dimensions hides vantage points for attentive players to find, rewarding them for taking the level seriously. But back to the level now, you find the right side of this hallway is a dead end. So you walk back to the left, avoiding the arrow traps this time, and enter the next room, fighting some basic enemies in a statue-filled staircase before moving forward. And then you'll enter my favorite room in the entire map. This room seems unassuming at first, with some basic enemies that lead you to a mysterious door. Approaching the door explains that the Necromancer's library is magically sealed. Then examining the two columns nearby simply says, "Seek the others." But while inspecting these impossible-to-miss objects covered in ominous particle effects, you'll probably accidentally step on this secret button. And this will trigger the dramatic reveal of a spiral staircase beneath the floor, descending much further down than anything you've seen so far. The instructions on screen simply state, "Seek the seals." So within a couple seconds, using only basic level design techniques, this sequence introduces a goal, enter the Necromancer's library, the obstacles in the way of that goal, the two magical seals, and the adventurous plunge you must take to accomplish that goal, descend the spiral staircase. And I love this spiral staircase. It's the perfect example of another cornerstone of Arcane Dimensions level design, central rooms. Central rooms can help players orient themselves within a maze-like level. Most branching paths will stem from and return to these central rooms, which keeps exploration from ever feeling too overwhelming. They're a staple of the best Zelda dungeons, and are often a spiraling room that you gradually unlock more of as you conquer the space. And you didn't think I wasn't going to mention Dark Souls, right? I'm a video essayist now. I can't talk about game design without comparisons to Dark Souls. And all these games' central rooms, again, help players internalize their levels and take them more seriously as a result. And now that you've revealed the spine of this level, the real adventure can begin. Traveling downwards will reveal a health pickup you probably need, so most players will jump up to collect it, which aggroes some enemies to ambush you. Yet another cornerstone of Arcane Dimensions. I'll make this one quick, because ambushes are basically traps, but with enemies. They keep you paranoid about what's around every corner because you've been surprised before, and like traps, this multiplies the engagement of everything that comes afterwards, making you take corners seriously whether they're hiding something or not. And yeah, obviously, ambushes are in Dark Souls too. Well, they're in Dark Souls also, but they are especially in Dark Souls too. And this ambush is particularly great, because it gives you just enough time to process how these new enemies behave, and the high ground you jumped onto gives you an advantageous place to shoot them from. Exploring the rest of this central room will greet you with a lot of locked doors. It's not very frustrating though, because each door has a memorable design, and Quake's movement speed is so fast that you don't waste any time checking dead ends. So the only open room is this hallway full of swinging axes, and yeah, I told you this is Sense Fortress. And this leads you to a new weapon and mini-boss, whose instant flame attack is much tougher than anything you've encountered before. It can burn you, but there's a hard-to-miss pool right in the center of the room, so observant players can quickly extinguish themselves. Anyway, you defeat the mini-boss and grab the gold key before returning to the central room. And behind the locked door is a double-barreled shotgun. Like all weapons in Arcane Dimensions, it's projectile-based instead of hit scan, and this just means that when you fire a weapon, it'll shoot an actual projectile that has to take time to travel to its target. Whereas firing a hit scan weapon will instantly draw a line wherever you're aiming, and immediately damage whatever it hits. Projectile-based weapons are interesting because you have to think a little bit more when aiming by taking into account how far away your target is and what speed it's moving to actually connect your shots. Arcane Dimensions actually started out as a simple mod to turn all of Quake's hit scan weapons into projectile-based ones. And I think this emphasis on spatial awareness is the perfect fit for these new levels. You know, every other design element I can't shut up about is forcing you to take the level layout seriously. And now every single shot you take does too. Plus it's just fun. To quote the other armless animated video essayist who never uploads, the cardinal rule of movement shooters is that projectile weapons are always more fun than hit scan. And yeah, can't argue with that. Anyway, this new room has 2 staircases with a vantage point showing the silver key and a magical seal locked away in the center. So after fighting your way up with your new shotgun, you have a choice between the left or right door. Going right takes you to a precarious walkway that, no matter how hard you try, will push you into the floor below. A blood-spattered basement with saw blades dividing the floor. You have no choice but to press one of the buttons in a corner, springing a trap revealing a vor. Yeah, sorry, these guys are called vors. They're from the original Quake, so Arcane Dimensions gets a pass, but anyway, their homing attacks make dancing through the saws even trickier. If you manage to press all 4 switches in the basement, it will reveal this elevator that you can ride up, press this button, which will create this really cool shortcut that you can use to bypass all this chaos for later. You enter a new room with a new vantage point, foreshadowing your next big fight, and pressing the switch tells you that there's one more before you can drop down. Making your way back to the room on the left greets you with some familiar arrow traps. You carefully dodge them, but your focus is used against you, as the entire floor drops beneath your feet, ambushing you with more screeching boars. Sorry. But I can't emphasize enough how delightful it is to play through a level where you both take its danger seriously and delights in pulling the rug, their entire floor, out from under your feet. It makes playing feel playful. And anyway, you defeat the Vors, and hitch your ride back up out of the trap. You hit the second switch in the vantage point room, and again, the entire floor drops beneath your feet instantly, throwing you right into the fight, and I love playing this game, and you will too when you download it after finishing this video. Clearing this room brings you up and drops you down, back into the previous one, but from a new vantage point, dramatically revealing the path to the seal and the silver key. Now, of course, collecting them also triggers an ambush of the strongest enemies you've seen so far, which thankfully gives me a chance to rave about the enemy design in this game. Arcane Dimensions has the best kind of FPS enemies, meaning they're not very threatening by themselves, but they each create a niche danger zone, like a chess piece. The Grunt can shoot you from afar, but can't attack very well up close. The knight has no range, but will run straight towards you swinging its sword. And the ogre has both melee and a ranged grenade, and the game mixing and matching these chess pieces is what makes for interesting combat, because you have to bob and weave through their danger zones that are constantly changing as they move and attack. Add some great level design underneath all that, and you've got one more reason to take these spaces seriously. After defeating these enemies, you'll return back to the central spiral staircase room. The knight statues spring to life, revealing a new kind of trick the keep pulls as you continue towards the room with the silver key. And surprise, it's that teased room from the beginning with the red window and huge enemies. And after that big fight, you'll reveal an exit and ride an elevator that spits you right back into the ceiling dart trap hallway. And this brings me to my last and personal favorite cornerstone of Arcane Dimensions level design: interconnectivity. Most video essay nerds' favorite moment in the entire Dark Souls trilogy is an unassuming one. See, the game is so brutal for beginners that each new checkpoint brings incredible relief, and you die and respawn so often that these checkpoints really start to feel like home. So in the first real area of the game, after clawing your way through brutal gauntlets and defeating the boss, you're thrown into an even more dangerous bridge with a dragon that can instantly kill you. If you're lucky, you barely escape off the side, walk downstairs, kick down a random ladder, and realize you've looped back to your very first checkpoint. It's a huge relief on its own, like every checkpoint is, but it's also an incredible full circle moment where you drop from the most dangerous to the most homey landmark in the entire game so far. And honestly, it's hard to do justice on this quick aside here, but it's one of, if not the best moment of level design in video game history. And Arcane Dimensions pulls this interconnectivity stunt several times a level. Now, it's nowhere near as brutal as Dark Souls, so the emotional relief isn't as euphoric, but the delight of getting lost only to find yourself back home is just as satisfying. And Arcane Dimensions pulls this stunt multiple times a level. Dark Souls earns hundreds of video essays for doing it a couple times across epic vistas, but Arcane Dimensions pulls it every 5 minutes within one sitting in one level. So anyway, you're back at one of the earliest rooms. The statues to your left still haven't come to life, and the enemies ahead draw your attention to the arrow trap hallway. You fight your way back to the room on the right that was locked earlier, which leads you to a foggy cave. And after a few more fights, you pick up the rocket launcher. And I think Quake's rocket launcher is the reason video games were invented. The thing just feels so good. And I love that this section is a cave too. Arcane Dimensions does a really good job mixing up the visuals within a single level, which help you better orient what connects to where. And this cave leads you to the second magic seal, and again, interconnects right back to the graveyard from the very beginning of the map. So you're back in the arena of your first fight, but this time armed with intimate map knowledge, experience, and the best rocket launcher in gaming. And you're pitted against a familiar fiery mini-boss to test those skills. And after defeating a huge wave of enemies, text on screen tells you the Necromancer's library is now open. So you make your way towards the staircase room, and those knight statues finally come to life, wordlessly telling you that you're going the right way, and that the keep has finally exhausted all of its tricks. Finally returning to your main goal, the magic seals recede, and the door to the Necromancer's library opens. There's an adorably dramatic hallway with fallen rangers and weapon pickups, and the reveal of the library lives up to the hype. A towering atrium of infinite books pierce the night sky. In the center, an armor pickup hiding one last trap that triggers the first wave of enemies. After defeating them, the center of the library rises slowly. Stopping to spawn yet another wave before climbing again towards the sky. Health and ammo litter the bookshelves around you. Your final ascent to the stars mirrors your long descent down the spiraling staircase that got you here. 11 different waves of enemies try to stop your climb. They lead you to a final fight, the Cackling Wraith. You sprint around its towering arena, dodging a fiery death. And upon victory, you avenge the soul of your bones. Adorable. An exit reveals itself, and you leave this dimension. The level ends by showing you how long you took, how many enemies you killed, and how many secrets you found. And after feeling like you peeled apart every inch of the map, seeing you barely found any secrets will make some eager to come back for more. And guys, every level is this good. Arcane Dimensions is unbelievably consistent with its phenomenal level design. Seriously, if it wasn't a Quake mod and was a standalone shooter with level design this good, gunplay this good, and combat this good, I think it would have seriously left a mark on the FPS genre. Especially when the first version of this mod came out back in, 2015? I mean, first-person shooters had basically forgotten how to make a game like this, and they were just recently remembering. And indie games wouldn't revive the boomer shooter until several years later. But still, even after this renaissance of Quake-inspired hits, I think Arcane Dimensions still outshines everyone in level design. And it's packed with so many excellent levels. If I can highlight just a few more, really quickly. Realm of Enceladus is a gorgeous map that takes place in a snowy eastern temple, much different than Quake's usual brown Gothic fortresses. The architecture is even more stunning than Necromancer's Keep, and the vantage points showing your progress are among Arcane Dimensions' best. And there's more than meets the eye to this snowy temple thanks to an underbelly of precarious mineshafts built on top of floating islands in the void. The aesthetics here are just incredible, and the boss fight at the end is even better than Necromancer's Keep. Obsessive Brick Disorder takes the wind tunnels from the original Quake and weaves an entire maze out of them. I love the fan gaminess of this level, taking something quaint and underexplored from the source material and pushing it to the absolute limits. But unlike a bad fan game, its gimmick never overshadows the principled level design that I just can't stop talking about. And I love the playfulness of the tunnels spinning you upwards into new areas, giving you just enough time to read the room and build tension before enemies ambush you the moment your feet hit the ground. Doomhanger 16 turns the fan gaminess up to 11 by remaking Doom's iconic first level, with plenty of fun surprises for the FPS veterans and a Quake flavor that keeps it all fresh. Grendel's Blade is a beautiful, spiraling level centered around a massive sword piercing the earth. It actually comes from a mapper's self-imposed challenge to only use vanilla Quake textures, which makes the art direction even more impressive. You can read all about the author's design process in an old blog, and man, I love the accessibility of the modding community and the indie internet. Maybe that should get its own video soon. Leptis Magna is a massive journey through a labyrinthian castle that should help convince any lingering skeptics that these are seriously just Souls levels. You'll crumble bridges, spring traps, and blast through walls to create shortcuts through this cursed kingdom. And listen, I know the constant Dark Souls comparisons can be overdone, even for a video essay this on the nose, but I can't stress enough that if you enjoy the beats of Souls levels, if you enjoy that ride, then I promise you will enjoy it when armed with a rocket launcher and moving at breakneck speeds. Some levels are 5-minute jogs, and others are hour-long treks through absolutely massive maps. But no matter the breadth, they all build on a foundation of excellent level design, and do so while looking incredible. Given how popular the 90s 3D aesthetic is right now, I'm amazed that Arcane Dimensions manages to look better than almost all of them, all while actually being inside the Quake engine. The original Quake was technically about a dimension-hopping soldier saving the universe, but the samey visuals and limited technology struggled to paint that picture. Arcane Dimensions feels like the true sequel to Quake. There's technically an official Quake 2, which is very different from the original, but Arcane Dimensions builds off Quake's perfect game feel, iconic enemy designs, and aesthetic ambitions while elevating all of it to new heights. And the irony of comparing its levels to Dark Souls, Zelda, Metroid, whatever, is that this incredible design is actually just building off the classic shooters already in its blood. Quake, Doom, and most 90s shooters delighted in placing traps, teasing through vantage points, establishing central rooms, surprising with enemy ambushes, and interconnecting its levels in a way that first-person shooters just stopped doing decades ago. And it's a shame I have to pull from so many other genres to highlight how good these principles are, because Arcane Dimensions proves that they still work great in an FPS. Listen, Arcane Dimensions isn't a perfect game. Sometimes you run out of ammo and there's no modern glory kill system that guarantees the game loop stays intact. And these sprawling levels allow players to get lost, unlike the more straightforward modern ones. But these flaws are few and far between, and honestly I think they make the game feel more classical as a result. Usually when a pretentious video essay recommends a hidden gem, they have to disclaim something like, "This game's really interesting, but it may not be for everyone." I feel the exact opposite about Arcane Dimensions. This is the most broadly enjoyable, straight to the point, all killer no filler FPS I've ever played. And I genuinely think that any fan of first-person shooters will love Arcane Dimensions. But if you're anything like my patrons I've been talking to about this game non-stop for months, the number one thing stopping you from trying it is that you haven't played the original Quake. But let me just tell you, honestly, you have. Quake was so formative to the first-person shooter that its DNA can be felt in literally every game that came after it. These controls, weapons, and enemies are so conventional that I would genuinely argue there's literally no learning curve to Arcane Dimensions if you've played like 3 shooters before. So seriously, go play Arcane Dimensions. And man, clean your room. A new tool from the Quake community makes playing Arcane Dimensions better and easier than ever. Iron Whale is a fan-made engine for Quake, and it adds tons of modern conveniences like mouse controls in the menu, a dedicated mods section on the pause screen, tons of customization, and an excellent autosave feature. Before Iron Whale, you kinda had to constantly save scum or lose way too much progress when you die, but now autosaves generate based on player speed, proximity to enemies, map geometry, all sorts of smart stuff, and Iron Whale lets you pick up and play Quake without ever stopping the fun. I'm going to show you how to install both Iron Whale and Arcane Dimensions, and I'm going to make it really quick and link better guides in the description. And listen, I still read every comment I get, but I'm not going to help you install it. Do you want my upload schedule to be even worse? First, we're going to install Iron Whale, which will help Quake run a lot easier on modern computers. So first, go to the Iron Whale GitHub page, which I've linked in the description, and go down to the latest release right here. At the time of recording, version 0.8.0 is the latest release, so I'm going to click on that, and click whatever downloader is best for your computer. If you don't know, then the 64-bit is probably what you need. So click that to get it. And now that Iron Whale is downloaded, go ahead and right-click the zip file, select Extract All, pick a place to extract it to. I'm going to extract it to my desktop, and extract. Now that we have the extracted Iron Whale folder, we need to put that inside of our Quake copy. So I'm going to open Steam, and if you've installed Quake already, go ahead and right-click it, Manage, Browse Local Files, and we're just going to paste that Iron Whale folder right into where Steam opened. And before we leave, we're going to open that Iron Whale folder, right-click ironwhale.exe, and select Copy as Path. And so now we're going to tell Steam to use that exe every time we hit play. And to do that, we're going to go back to Steam, right-click on Quake, go to Properties, we're going to paste that path here, and then we're going to type space %command %, and close. And now you can see when we play Quake, like a normal game on Steam, it's going to ask us which version of Quake we want to play. It's important to select Play Quake Original here, and I'm going to tell Steam to always use that option. And hit play. And now Quake is opening within Iron Whale, so you have all sorts of modern conveniences like the mouse control and customizability and all that. So now that Iron Whale is working correctly, we need to install Arcane Dimensions. Go ahead and open the ModDB page for Arcane Dimensions, which I've also linked in the description. Go over here to the download area, and we'll download the full Arcane Dimensions 1.0 with patch 1. This will take us to a new page, and we'll just hit download now. Now that Arcane Dimensions is downloaded, I'm going to extract it to my desktop again, but before I do, I'm going to make a new folder. And that folder is going to be called AD in all lowercase, just like this. And back to my downloads, I'm going to extract this by again right-clicking, extract all. I'm going to put it in that AD folder I just created and extract. Now we just need to put this AD folder into our Quake game as well. So to do that, I'm going to open Steam, again right-click on Quake, go to Manage, browse local files, and I'm just going to find that AD folder on my desktop, and drag and drop it in. Now when we run Quake, it'll again open in Iron Whale, and we can go to Mods, and find AD right here, and enjoy. I would probably still go into options first, and mess around with things like display, graphics, interface, and game, and just tweak them to your liking in case you want. But other than that, the game is ready to play. Have fun. Arcane Dimensions is just the tip of the iceberg of truly incredible Quake community content. I'll link some really cool resources on this subculture in the description, because I am definitely not the ambassador for this thriving community that's almost 30 years old. But Arcane Dimensions is such a good gateway drug for it that honestly, I think my only job here is to get you to play that first. The rabbit hole of custom Quake maps ironically feels like stepping into an alternate dimension yourself. It's one where the crunchy basics of 90s FPS design never really went away, but the primitive maps evolved into limitless worlds. Seeing it makes me nostalgic for a timeline that never existed, but is somehow playable right now. And if you're jaded by the current state of gaming, or, the current state of the world, then all you gotta do is walk through the slipgate into another one. A while back, I started this game of bingo with my patrons. See, I draw you a profile picture in the personal life, which everyone with access to the Patreon videos knows. I'm recording this in my car right now. I hope the audio isn't too bad. But to give them the dopamine hit they all deserve, I'm gonna read their names out loud now. Oh, and like I said, I still read every single comment I get still, so if you're poor and still need the dopamine that parasocial attention gives you, just leave a comment, and if it doesn't, really suck, I'll give you the little heart thing. So, seriously, thanks for watching, and a very special thanks to my credited patrons. Sylveon, Megapieman, Awan2407, Spygun21, Jules, Samo, Coldfishel, Jumpit, Zilchfox, Bax, Abusi, Jackson, Trekkintosh, Noodles, Rarely Used 3, Cheeky Melon, Kingster14, Layuka, Scott D. Forsyth, and Womble.